What's going on, buddy?
Not too much.
How are you?
I'm good.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bourbonist here at Cottle Village. It's a brand new, just
I was going to say for that.
just a multi-tier experience here in Cottleville, Missouri, run by none other than Stephen Savage.
Who's the man sitting before us.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Forewarning, this is my first podcast. You guys are
All right.
popping my podcast cherry.
Yeah, buddy. Love it. Well, I'm glad you said it because I was about to say it, and I was kind of like, this is our first podcast with you as well. So, I mean,
Let's test the waters a little
most of the guests we make pretty uncomfortable pretty soon, but
bit. At one
we're
point
trying
or
to change
another.
that.
Yeah, we're trying to.
Could you tell the questions when you guys were setting up? Was that a tell sign that when I was asking the questions as we're setting up of?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're doing it here. Yeah, I mean it's it's really our second week open. We got rained out the first week, so this is what I'd call our second week. Tuesday, so we'll kick it off this weekend. But everything's coming into place. We're getting it looking good, feeling more comfortable in it, and I'd much rather do it here than some studio. So I'm glad you guys came out here and appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, our
Thank you.
studio's awesome, but this is cooler.
Well, that, and especially since this episode's all about you and what you've finished building here, we want to feature you and your baby here. So it's awesome that especially it's a big treat that we get to smoke and Adam gets to choke.
Every
Just
episode,
like every
I
episode.
am the one. Every single episode, I cough.
Right in the beginning or
Yep.
throughout it?
It's
Within the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
yes.
I'm sure I'll get one. I'll hit the whiskey wrong. Speaking of which,
Oh, let's go for it. Yeah. Cheers.
this is our new release, our 100 proof weeded, and we saw right away with after our the release of our flagship, which actually I just realized I grabbed two of the same bottles, so we got to do a pause and grab one of
Oh,
those.
sure.
But we saw right away that we needed something that's a little bit on the everyday drinker profile, and this hits just that. It's got that sweetness from the weed. It's that 100 proof, so it's great neat, which is how I usually prefer it, depending on how hot it is. But great neat, great as old fashioned.
Man.
Oh, twice already. I'm just so blown away by your story that I just can't help but.
It's the atmosphere. You're looking around, and
It makes you choke up inside, especially as a man who loves whiskey.
well, we got the doors open. Maybe the pollen's hitting you. Maybe it's not the cigar. Yeah, the pollen. Yeah, we're at
probably
that
the
time of
pollen.
the year.
Yeah. But, whatever. Yeah. They're sure terrible. So, I don't know where to start, man. Like,
Well,
go for it.
what is Cottle Village?
So it's Cottle Village is a multi-venue, what we're describing as a farmstead and distillery, and it's really a hospitality farmstead and distillery. And we were very fortunate to be able to purchase what was the Kurtz Nursery and Farm. At one point, it was 114 acres here in Cottleville, and the mother started Kurtz Nursery and left it to the two sons, Richard and Sydney. Richard did the landscaping and nursery side, and Sydney did the topsoil and mulch. And eventually they sold the property down to 4.5 acres, and Sydney moved the topsoil business to Chesterfield, and it's still in business. And actually I just met with his son Sunday. They stopped by, him and his wife, Sydney, Matthew Kurtz. And I met with Richard's family. I didn't have a chance to meet with his son yet, Richard Jr., but unbelievable experience. Being able to show them around and show them what we've done to preserve and make it a destination that everybody in the community and area can enjoy, instead of it becoming storage facilities or multifamily apartments. There's only going to be those two things or this for everybody to enjoy. And going back to the farmstead, we preserved the original farmhouse and expanded it from 2,000 square feet to 8,000 to make that the tavern, which is a 270-seat restaurant bar with a cocktail lounge. So, yeah, 270 seats. It's like first thing everybody says is, wow, that's big. And, well, it's really broken down to a few parts. The main dining rooms are about 100 seats. And we might not make them a little bit less than that because we want it to be comfortable. We want it to be to where you can walk around or you're not close to a table, another table. And there's the primary dining, which will be our adult dining room. And then there's a secondary, which is our family. And the reason for that is we want all of Cottle Village to be family friendly. I've got 2 daughters, 7 and 10, and we want families to come here, but we also want to have it be to where adults can come here and not be burdened with other kids, or if they're on a date night or they don't have kids, whatever it is, or a guy's night out or a girl's night out, and be able to have that adult experience without screaming kids next to them.
Right.
And so the primary dining is for that. It's our adult seating area. And then the bar, of course, 21. And then we've got a cocktail lounge above it that is also 21. And the primary dining, bar, and lounge are very very comfortable lounge-style seating. My wife did a phenomenal job with the interior on there. We'll get you guys in there. It's almost done.
Well, yeah, that we were talking about that before this. Is like when it's open, we're just going to come do a big like vlog, like a Guy Fieri style thing, where we just do a tour of everything.
Eat some good food from Chef Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a 60-person private party space and a 60-person patio. So not all of it will be open or utilized at the same time, and not all of it is dining. The bar and lounge are not dining. Obviously the patio is seasonal, and so then we've got the Farmstead Distillery, which we're in right now. This is the exact location of the Kurtz barn. We expanded it a little bit and made it the distillery. And then the last existing building is the oldest on the property, 115-year-old implement shed. And it's all the original wood. That's
what that is, because I pointed that out to him when we were here last weekend. I was like, did they get old barn wood and like use it to build, or is that?
Yeah, that was here.
That's awesome.
That we call the Tiny Tavern. That's our elevated concession, walk up, grab and go, canned beers, canned cocktails, elevated concession style foods, some sausages, charcuterie, hummus, spin dip, pretzels. What most people call winery food, but we're a distillery.
Right.
That's awesome.
Missouri, we're not as known for our distilleries, and
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, we're getting there. I mean, before I started this project, there was definitely not as many, and over the course, I started working this concept 4 years ago, and there's very few, and now they are definitely popping up more. But the Tiny Tavern's out at the Field, which is our live outdoor music venue, which you guys got to see last weekend. We had Bobby Ford Band, and
that was Bobby Ford.
That's the one and only Bobby Ford Band.
Okay, so that's awesome, because my parents were like, they've been trying to find a time where they're big fans of ours, but they also just love. So both my parents born and raised in Missouri, and so they're very hometown proud. And Bobby Ford is hometown, and he's one of the best bands in all of Missouri.
Yeah,
and so
Arnold, Missouri, and he's a great guy, great band. All of them I can't speak highly enough. I've known Bobby since 2018, 19. He was actually a manager with me for me down at Midwestern.
Really?
And
cool.
Then he got his band up and going, and gave him a couple pointers like, hey Bobby, you should shotgun some beers up on the stage. And now he's got it down. He's a great guy. His dad was here. Remind me to show you guys this photo. My phone's over there, otherwise I'd show it to you. Probably the best, maybe the second best photo of my entire career I've ever seen, or actually I got to take it, but his dad's on the dance floor with a 16-ounce mug filled to the top with none other than Farmstead bourbon.
He drank it.
That was the second one.
Dude.
And he was completely fine. My wife was like, that's not okay. I'm like, well, one, he's a big man. And number two,
He's professional.
he's a professional. He said that he's got lots of years of conditioning on this. But most importantly, his son was driving him home.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. Yeah. Sober drivers all the
Yes.
time. Uber, we're big components of that.
Well, that's amazing because I've never seen a place, and this is something that when Adam and I first showed up when it was raining,
Yeah.
we've never seen a venue like this that's multi-structural as well as multi-purposeful. And so my next question, I guess, if I may, is what was the influence?
Definitely downtown. You know, I used to own Wheelhouse, Start Bar in the Midwestern, and you know that wasn't necessarily.
You used to own Wheelhouse?
Yeah, could you believe that?
Okay. Now it's starting to connect.
So remind a person who was born and continues to live under a rock, what is Wheelhouse?
Wheelhouse, it's on 1000 Spruce Street, in between Enterprise and Busch Stadium. So phenomenal location, and you know it. When we first opened it, it couldn't have been better, and it was great until really COVID. You know, I'm not going to get into all the politics of all that, but you know, and then it just things obviously COVID, and then past COVID, you know, it just changed downtown, and I think there's a lot of things that influence that. It's you know, the recession that we are in. You know, people aren't spending money as much.
Right.
The crime, a lot of different factors. The Cardinals not making the playoffs. The Blues didn't make the playoffs last year. You know, there was a lot that went into it, but my whole goal was, as I was dealing with the stresses of having businesses downtown, and not just businesses, but the, you know, really, I can confidently say undisputed highest volume for a long time there, at least 5 years. And there's a lot of stresses that come in that. And I told my wife I'm not going to do this forever. You know, 10 years is about all I can do. And I did a little over 10, and it was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I am fully gray and white now in my mustache. It's coming in. I'd say half of that was from the high volume bars downtown, and another half is from this project for sure. The construction and it was 2 full years of construction or design, construction, and a lot of fun, and it's great to do, but a lot of stress. I mean, just the schedule, the weather. Oh man, the weather. I never thought, you know, because everything I did in the past was all the structures were there, and then I would design them and do all interior work, and you know you don't get construction delays because of weather. And I built my house in Cottle. We live right down the road, and 2 years ago. And that's when I first started to learn about how bad the weather impacts ground up construction. But then you multiply that house times 4, and then extensive groundwork and patio, parking lot. And man, it's just like we had a month of weather delays, and I think we used 3 months just of rain, snow days. We had a couple heat days in there, which I didn't know that was a thing, but there's heat days. And so yeah, it's lots of grays from the downtown businesses and opening this place, but it's all worth it. It was all worth it, a part of the journey. And you know, back to what I did in the past, it wasn't really planned that way. Our first location was in Clayton, and that was really a way to get our foot in the door. We found a failed Tucci and Frusta's Italian restaurant off of 15 North Central in the heart of Clayton. And they were open 6 months, I believe, and so it was all brand new furniture. You know, the kitchen was there. All we had to do was make it our own. And so my dad, stepdad, godfather, you know, we all, my business partners as they could, we would do all we did all the construction ourselves on it. You know, did everything, yeah. And, you know, looking back on it, you know, we paid all in, I mean, a fraction of what the downtown businesses and, I mean, much smaller than this project, obviously, but it got our foot in the door. It showed, hey, look, we can operate as owners, because we had a past as managing, and to go to that next step and have somebody trust you with a lease, it takes a lot more to do. And so we started with the Wheelhouse Clayton location and quickly realized that we outgrew that and we're ready for bigger and better.
Well, and what was that? I'm sorry, what was that business called?
It was Wheelhouse and Clayton.
Oh, it was
and it was. I mean, essentially, we started off as what we called, this was 13 years ago, a high energy, upscale sports bar.
Okay.
Actually, a crafty sports bar is what we called it.
Crafty.
Yeah, crafty. No.
I was like, that's some high energy.
Cracky would be the downtown versions. No, and then so then we found this location in 1000 Spruce, and Ballpark Village already announced they were opening, and in this space was 10,000 square feet, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" Ballpark Village just opened. We opened 6 months after Ballpark Village. Different riders were like, "Are you out of your mind?" And we knew that we had something they didn't, and that's we're local operators, we're real people, we're on site, we're face of the business, we have relationships, lots of relationships and networks, and it was a success, and I didn't doubt that it was going to be a success. I definitely underestimated how big of a success it became. And, going back to that picture, my second favorite picture is Bobby Ford's dad. My first was the Blues brought the Stanley Cup. They went to O.B. Clark's the first night, and then they brought the cup to Wheelhouse the second night. And,
oh, my gosh.
Oh, it was the best night of my life. And I told this to my wife. I'm like, look, our wedding was phenomenal. But I grew up playing hockey, in St. Louis, and a Blues fan. And to have the Blues bring the Stanley Cup to my bar, it was just like, I was in heaven. I mean, it was just unbelievable. The whole team, they got so fucked up. Am I allowed to cuss on here? Yes, I am.
Yes.
It was just like watching these guys party was like, and I lived in Columbia, Missouri for 8 years. So, I've seen partying, and I saw these guys.
You know a little bit.
I know a little bit,
Jeez.
Yeah. I owned Wheelhouse. But seeing these guys, I was just like, wow. I could not believe how much they drank. Yeah. It was just like, and they had the time of their lives. Some of the photos, you just see this pure joy in their face. It was just like,
that's the best publicity right there.
Yeah.
Or the best social networking. Putting that on your Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I bet you that helped out quite a bit.
Yeah. At that point, that was 5 years in, and we were already, nonstop then.
Yeah.
And, so then, so we opened up Wheelhouse downtown, and then, and this is where it was never the plan, but it's like, okay, well, what's next? And there's a space next door, so we opened up Start Bar, which is an arcade bar, and it was the first one in St. Louis. They were popping up everywhere else, and we're like, all right, let's do it. It's easy. We did that, and then, we at that point I realized I'm building these venues on what my tastes are now in my life. I'm a little bit older. Wheelhouse is great, but I'm ready for something a little bit more chill, a little bit more low key and
less crack.
Start Bar was just that, and then a few more years go by, and
You're fine. I just had to move it.
a few more years go by, and again maturing, and designed and developed the concept for Midwestern with my business partners, and that one was designed as the step above the three of them, and a whiskey, bourbon, cocktail, barbecue bar, live music. At the time, country wasn't as popular as it is now. This was 2018, 19. But so we had kind of a mixture of all the music and all the bands, country, rock, bluegrass. And that one didn't really hit in the beginning. And it was the first time we didn't have like immediate success and lines out the door. And we had Tony Saputo, who helped me out a little bit here, great friend, phenomenal everything with beverage industry, and he was the beverage director, and we kind of gave him free reign. And next thing I know, we have, it's been so long I don't remember, but it was well over 400 spirits, 300 whiskey bourbons, and everything from obviously American, but Japanese, Indian, you name it, we had it. And it wasn't just like anything he could buy. He curated it. It was but we had a Bible of a spirits list, and then so many tequilas and mezcals, and I think it was intimidating for people. They saw this and they thought, this is expensive. It's we're in a party bar zone, stadium district, and so we just kind of tweaked it and said, hey, look, you can get a bucket of beer, and we got live music, and it took off. But that's when I realized my passion was just evolving and designing these concepts around what my tastes are. And for Midwestern, we when I left, we had 23 barrel picks. 2 of them were tequila, and I've been to Kentucky probably between 15 times for barrel picks and another 5 for guys trips, probably about 20 times. And that's how this concept came about. And as I would look at these distilleries in Kentucky and see what they had and didn't have, that's where Cottle Village really came, having a full encompassing, and again, relating to the downtown businesses. We had 3 bars with 3 different identities, and give a reason for people to come, for 3 different reasons for somebody to come to one spot. Captivate customers for many different reasons, for many different times, and many different long hours. And that Cottle Village is a part of that. We have what I'd call 3 venues: the tavern, main restaurant, Farmstead Distillery, and the field, to captivate customers. Not only, you can come here for brunch and then come over here and grab a cocktail and then go out and get some live music or hang out in the field, or you come for dinner and then come for a nightcap over here, and then maybe you have time to go catch some live music at night. So you captivate them on one time, or give them a reason to come back every week. Give them something new to come back to. Maybe they're just going to come here for a cocktail at the distillery, or just come for dinner, or just come for a live show. But it gives people a reason to come back every week or every other week, instead of we're going to go back, we're going to go there every 6 months.
Right.
And just go experience the same thing about twice a year. Instead, now it's every time you come, you're getting a new experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is all just kind of, it's still sinking in for me. Like, I was so blown away, and I'm not kissing ass, or maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe
is
like
that why you haven't touched your cigar? You don't want to choke again?
No, I'm doing just fine. Thanks, Dad.
I'm doing just fine.
I don't know, man. I just think there's such a my dad's been in the restaurant industry for 40 years. Started when he was 14 at the Lamp Mansion, and has helped build things. He's been regional manager of this and that and different things. And so I grew up around it. I grew up around, being taken into the kitchen and because he started as a chef, when he and my mom got married, and, so I got taken to the kitchen, and then he became the manager. And so I saw him less, but I didn't understand why. But then, on the off chance that we would go have dinner, we just got treated like kings and queens and, like royalty, because he was there. And it was, it's this whole thing that, and there's one thing that he promised me that he would never do. And that's open his own.
Open his what?
Open his own restaurant. Open his own sort of this kind of thing, because of the amount of work. And he's always said, it takes a special kind of person. It takes a kind of person who, there's a lot of losses, and there's a lot of hardship, and there's a lot of hours, and there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But on the upside of that, and I'm sure I can't wait for you to meet him, and I want to bring him up here for dinner and you know, he and my mom and kind of treat them, but it would be, my guess is the same way that he felt when he met Demetrius and got to do. So my dad was part of our barrel pick team.
Oh, nice.
And so he got to hang out, and like my dad was brought to tears with the amount of, like, cause he's a Marine. And so not an emotional guy, or he is, but he doesn't show it. And, you know, and just brought to tears with the amount of respect that he had, because he knows full well how much this all takes and how hard it is to run people, much less a restaurant and people and the staff and, you know, the customers, which are people too. So they're broken in their own way. And so you deal with the people who drink too much, and then deal with the Karens of the world, and, you know, like all the things. And I have so much respect for you as a person. And so I guess my first question between the two of us is, what are some of the like personal benefits that you've seen? Like, I don't mean to get so deep that we, you know, dive into the ocean, but hey, why not?
Swan dive without the floaties.
There
baby.
you go. Like, what are some of the personal benefits that you've had growth from dealing with? Like, is there anything that stands out? Like any customers that were like, that changed your life? Like that photo you were telling me, like, you know,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, it's a very complex question and answer. And, you know, I think I'd start with, it's been an evolution, that's for sure. I mean, if I look back at, you know, I managed at Harpo's and worked at Harpo's in Columbia for 8 years. That's where I met my wife and got my initial start in the high volume bar industry. I started at 15 at Jimmy John's, which, you know, looking back at it, it's like, yeah, it's not much, but it taught me a lot. And I had a great mentor there that taught me a lot. And then I switched over to Crazy Bowls and Wraps, which was just right across the plaza in Creve Coeur, because I needed to make more money, and was a prep cook there. I was actually their first American cook, prep cook ever. You know, so it's just me and these guys that didn't speak English. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's been an evolution. And even back when I first started as an owner, you just keep improving. And that's this whole industry, is you just got to keep improving. And, you know, I will say, now that I'm thinking about it, there was one thing that one person said to me. And, you know, at Harpo's, I was, everywhere I always wanted to take the next person's job. I wanted to do more. And it wasn't necessarily make more money as much as it was, I wanted to learn more. And I wanted to go to that next level and see how high I can push myself. And, you know, to the point where I was 16 years old and had keys at Jimmy John's, and would close down the place, and, you know, managing guys who were 30 years old. And I was probably 17 at the time, now I think about it. But at Harpo's even, you know, I started as a door guy, and then they had a weird hierarchy. You went from door guy to the kitchen, because then if you couldn't cut in the kitchen, you were done. Well, I had kitchen experience and cooking experience, so I flourished in that, which they never got a college kid that had cooking experience. So, like, then I went to bartender, and then I was bar manager. And there was one girl, and she worked there, and she was really drunk. But I was like, hey, you know, I cut her off. I'm like, hey, look, you had enough. Don't need to go home, but I'm not serving anymore. Yeah. You know, and I probably was a dick about it. You know, just naturally I've got that, you know, dick look to me.
Dickish vibe.
Yeah. And, but I was looking out for her own
Is
good.
it the hockey?
It's just, you know, I was looking out for her well-being. And she turned around to me and she's like, you'll only be a bar manager. That's what you'll never be more than that. And I was like, I'm gonna show you. And I've thought about that, you know, every now and then, and you just bring it up. But
Do you ever see her again?
no, I haven't seen her since college. But I'll definitely tell her.
Hey, you remember the bar manager from Harpo's
Yeah,
that cut you off?
You know, I look at it all, and there's been a lot of ups and downs. And, you know, going back to like kind of what your dad said and what you said about your dad was, there's a lot of there's a lot of stresses that it does take a unique person to be able to deal with. A good example right now is every one of my credit cards is maxed out. I mean, we can barely get by right now. But we know that that the end is near, and we are confident that this place is going to do well. Same when I opened a wheelhouse. When I opened up wheelhouse downtown, we got married, and we were in almost $200,000 in debt. And I remember thinking, like, we're never going to get out. Like, how are we going to get out of this? And you just work your ass off, put in the time, and more importantly, build up a great team that you treat well, you compensate them well, and you give them time off. As I progressed and was at the later stages of my actual managing career, I remember and my plan was always to own my own bar, just because that was the progression that in my mind, that I had to take. But then the reasoning switched from that's the ladder to I hadn't had a week. There was one period working at Harpo's where I didn't have a weekend off unless it was the summer for 4 years. I worked every single football game, every single Mizzou football game, my entire career at Harpo's. And the first game I went to was at, 7.5 of living down there. And, at some point I just realized the reason I need to become an owner is because if I'm going to start a family, I need to be able to take a weekend off. And as I evolved of being an owner, I started to realize that there's two types of compensation. There's monetary and then there's time. And downtown we did this until there was a point where as downtown has, as the fall happened, we couldn't do it anymore. But we built it around to where we had enough managers where if a manager wanted a night off, what manager wanted needed a weekend off, they can take it. And that's what we're really going to be doing and focusing on here at Cottle Village is we're always going to be closed January 1st to the 7th. So managers can have a obviously paid week off just as a reset after the year. But then vacations, but then also it's like, hey, if you have a wedding, that's not a vacation. To me, I missed out on so many weddings in this industry, birthday parties, it's just like vacation's vacation. Vacation is you're taking a week away from this business. And this industry is very hard on, we're weekends. Our schedule is not the same as a Monday, Friday, 9 to 5. And, what we try to do is not only compensate well, but also say, hey, look, if you got your kid's birthday, take that day off. Obviously right now we're trying to get through just opening, but after 1 year, that's when you can really start to do those things. And that's why I think, it was important for me to become an owner, but then as I've learned, it's important to be able to allow that and give that for the management team who works so hard. They're all so talented. I mean, the team's been being built up now, and we just pulled on 2 more, a general manager for the field and a beverage director for the distillery. And we've already got a general manager. We've got a director of operations who I've known since Columbia. Phenomenal team. And then our chef, Jonathan, and his sous chef, Albert. We've really built up a great team. And different than what I've done in the past, I've been very patient on it to wait until we're open to see who the best fit is with our organization. Yeah. And right now, I mean, I could not be more confident in our management team here. I mean, it's, especially after we had Mother's Day brunch and Jonathan and Albert did an unbelievable job on the Mother's Day brunch. I am so excited about our holiday brunches that we're going to be doing.
I think that actually brings up a good point is because something else that my father always said is everybody and their brother wants to start a restaurant. Everybody, I mean, the amount of bars that, I mean, he and his brother and his mom when he was younger, so I guess he didn't really run it, but his brother did. They owned a bar, and like in the 80s, and it just, people don't understand the amount of, because what people want is fast cash, because it's the same situation as like social media, right? Like it's a similar situation to like doom scrolling, where people want just a quick fix. They want a quick cash, but they also want to do what they want, right? And so when you try to do things like, oh, let's just open a bar. Oh, let's just do XYZ. And then, month, 2-3 months go by and you're like, wow, I don't see any profit from this. And you're like, okay, cool. You probably won't for a while. And you won't see it bloom in full until you've put, like you said, this concept, what, is 4 years old?
4 years of working on what now is Cottle Village. Yeah.
Right. And so the amount of tenacity inside of patience that takes, of that golden, I call it the golden period, just because it's so difficult, but it makes you so, I don't know, it forms you, if you will, because the fire is in the waiting for what's going to happen, and the pursuit of a dream, and the pursuit of what you see and what your vision's going to be. And so many people start and stop businesses so quickly because they're like, well, this isn't what I wanted it to be. Well, then you didn't have a full view of it. Then you didn't have a full understanding of the patience and the hard work that it would take to get to this position.
Well, and I think it also shows how bad they actually wanted it. Because like what you said, and I would even take it a step further in just people starting businesses in general. I feel like they want to start a business so they can have their own schedule, they can do what they want, and they can just make a buttload of money to have somebody else run something for them. When it's like, well, especially starting off, you're not going to get that for a long time.
Those don't happen. That's for sure.
Right.
I mean, one, as an owner, you're on call 24/7. I mean, I would get calls all hours of the night, and I'm a morning person, go to bed early now, and have been for the last probably 10 years. But, I'd be the one that I'd get a call at 3, 4, 5 a.m. The fire alarm's going off. This is going on. This is happening. And which is another reason why I wanted to do this project, is we're pretty much done every night at midnight, maybe 1 a.m. But it's not a 3 a.m. bar, and I'm very grateful for that. That's for sure. But, the amount of, you're and that, I think that the ones that are involved and the ones that are there, that are the one that's the first call that a manager makes, that's the ones that are going to be successful. The ones that go into it thinking, I'm going to be able to vacation all the time, I'm going to be able to do this, that.
I'm going to use the proceeds to build my dream life.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
What? I mean, I'll tell you right now, starting up a business, and every restaurateur and restaurant bar owner is different. Like, and everybody's situation is different. Right now I have no income coming on from any other restaurant. So if you've got your big restaurant group and you've got income coming in, you probably have the ability to do different things than what the situation I'm in now. But what I'm in now is exactly what I was like when I started all the other bars. And that's, I mean, right now I'm on last week was 1 month of 7 days, 7-day work weeks, not a day off. My wife's like, I don't know how you're doing this. It's all for what is going to happen in a year from now. That's why. And in this situation, it's very neat because we still have construction going on in the tavern. So I've got to be here I used to get here at 7, but now I can't. I get here between 8 and 9. And then when we're open Thursday through Sunday, I'm here until, I try to stay until close, midnight, 1 a.m. And that's what it takes. It takes saying, my two best friends that I've known since 6th grade, they had their birthday party last weekend, and I had to miss it to be here. And that's the sacrifices you have to not only be willing to make, but want to make, because I know that it's going to pay off in the long run. And it's not going to pay off just for me. It's going to pay off for the managers. It's going to pay off. I mean, eventually, we're projected to have about 100 employees here. And it's not just for me, it's for them. To provide an income for them, provide tax revenue for the community, to provide learning experiences and job opportunities where, I think this industry truly forms people back into what construction jobs used to do. People aren't getting construction jobs anymore. Very few people are getting hospitality and back of house kitchen jobs. And we're getting a lot of younger kids coming in here. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. We're getting to teach them what it's like to work hard, to take out trash, to bust tables, to wash dishes. Things that a lot of people that don't have jobs, that go into college and then get a job at Enterprise Center or, whatever sales job they get or whatever, they miss out on the grit and the getting
the humility,
dirty, the working long hours, the sweating, the, blood. I mean, I don't know how many bartenders cut themselves, including myself. We got one around here somewhere, bartending, right there. It's just, this industry teaches you a lot. And, that's one thing I looked back on last weekend, and this is a unique situation because we're getting so many high school and, we always got college kids, but, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds that we have the opportunity to teach before they go into their career path and show them what, I mean, this is outside of construction. And I'm not trying to diminish any other career, but, this is one of the hardest industries. You have to have a thick skin. You have to be able to work hard. You're on your feet the whole time. And, I think it's one of the, it's a privilege to do, but it's also, you look at it and you're like, you're making an impact in a different way than I never thought I was.
Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of that is kind of, so the past 3.5 years I've been working at a country club as a server, bartender, bar manager for a while. And just like I told you, I was running a buffet. Like back before I got hurt, I was running every buffet that my country club was having for almost like 6 months. And it's a totally different, and so it's always been hospitality with me personally. So like I was a manager at the Museum of Transportation for about 7 years. And then I did personal training for a couple years on top of managing at the museum. And then I went into like payroll accounting for different corporate clients at a small family owned accounting firm. Did that for about 7-8 months, but it's always been people driven. And I feel like there's, like what you've been saying, there is a benefit or there is a skill that you can develop when you go into this hospitality, in the hospitality realm, that people miss out on going in and working for those Fortune 500 companies and going and getting those office jobs, that they miss out on they miss out on building their character, building up that tenacity, building up that perseverance, being able to persevere even when times look rough. You continue to keep going, you push, because you're not working for yourself. I mean, you are, but you're working for the other person. You're working for the person you're serving, the person you're serving the drink to, bartending, making the drink.
Yeah. It's something that my dad, and I keep bringing him up just because he's been in this world forever, but something that he always said is every person on the planet should be at one point in their life be forced to do one of two things: go into the military or serve at a restaurant. Yeah. And it's because it teaches you everything you need to know about hardship and people, because you experience all the people that are coming in. You experience, and I'll take that a step further. Everyone in their life at some point should strive to get a job where you are a cog in a machine, to where if you don't do your job, everybody else fails. Everybody else gets the bucket. You are an important part of every single, even down to the busboys. Like, if it isn't for you, the next person can't sit here. The waiters, if it isn't for you, they don't have a good time. They don't go tell their friends that they had a good time. They don't come back. And also, you can't be counted on when it comes to your memory or your ability to make people happy and serve, even if you're having a shit day. And then the managers, you know, learning the people, learning that if it's not for like, because the trickle down effect is a lot what people think. Because you mentioned like trickling down, and like a lot of people look at that as I'm going to start a business and therefore trickle down. So I'm in charge of you. No, it's the whatever I have, people look to me to lead. And if I'm having a shit day and I let it show, the rest of them are affected. Their job performance, the way that they interact with other people, the way that they do their job. It's all it's this well-oiled machine. And if you didn't oil yourself up before you came in, not literally, but but if you didn't lubricate yourself before you came in, you're gonna be the wrench in that system. You're going to be the rusty cog that's not moving the rest of the parts.
Well, and this is something we've talked about on our podcast before is it's kind of the job description of the king. The king isn't meant like a king in an old style monarchy is meant to serve the people underneath him and bring them up. He's not meant to hoard all the wealth. He's not meant to show it off at like, oh, look at me. He's put in that position to go serve the people that are supposedly underneath him. And and I think that's what the job as a server does, or more specifically, the manager. Because as a manager, you're meant to help serve your servers so they can help basically make sure that your customers are having a great time. They're getting excellent service. That's why when I was leaving the other night on Saturday, I mean, the people who were taking care of me and Adam did an excellent job.
We have a phenomenal staff, and that is rare, very rare on opening a venue. But we've got a really good, strong staff, and very pleased by. I mean, our first weekend open, like under the stress test, they did phenomenally well. I mean, better than any opening I've ever done before. Like, I mean, to the point where everybody was happy, you know, maybe a couple small complaints here and there, but nothing to like, you know, orders being missed. And I mean, yes, these two are a lot easier. The tavern's gonna be the true test. I mean, but at least we're warming up with these two. But it went, I mean, knock on wood, because now we got this one coming up in a few weeks, but it went smoother than I ever anticipated. And, you know, I mean, the outdoor one, that's easy. You know, we're opening up cans of beer and, you know, it's a concession, but it's still hundreds of people out there, and they did great. Bartenders in here did great. You know, we got to learn a lot. Number one thing is batch the old fashioned. I jumped on the server well to help them out. I probably made 100 old fashions, and it's just like, it was mind blowing how many old fashions I made. I'm like, tomorrow morning we're batching these.
To those of you that are layman's, batching is basically just making it in large quantities, so all you have to do is pour it in and then
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and with old fashioned, there's no difference. You know, we still pour it over ice, stir it. If anything, it's the exact, and we measure everything. I mean, my big thing is if you're making a cocktail, even if I'm at home making myself a Manhattan, which is my favorite cocktail, which I got to grab our flagship bourbon, because it's the perfect Manhattan bourbon. And even if I'm making a Manhattan home, I measure every time because it's consistent, perfect. Even when you're using the measure or jigger, I mean, there's still a margin of error there, but you know, when you're making a batch of it, it's even much more accurate. So,
right.
Batching an old fashioned or even a Manhattan, unfortunately, people don't drink Manhattans as much as I like them. I was very shocked by that. I learned a lot. We're learning a lot on the P mix, the product mix, and you know, I thought we'd sell a lot more Manhattans, but old fashions is king. That's for sure.
Well, at least from what I've experienced, especially with the younger crowd, everyone likes the idea of ordering an old fashioned. At least so.
Well, this is old. I mean, more mature crowd here. And I was expecting more Manhattans because of it, but it was old fashioned margarita. Una Vita margarita, by the way.
Yeah,
Shout
baby.
out, Zach.
That baby.
Shout out to Una Vita.
Yep.
And
They're our first major client for our. Should we drop the ball? We'll drop the ball. No, not yet. Okay.
Zach's a good buddy of ours. He's a blast to be with. So much fun, and he's doing amazing work with Una Vita.
they've been doing big things. You guys mind if I take a pause real quick and grab that bottle?
No, go ahead. Are you gonna cut right here? No. Well, Steve, you know my hockey comment. I meant nothing by that, right? By my hockey comment, I meant nothing.
Wait, what was your...
The moment I saw him, especially today, my first thought was, he's played hockey at some point in his life. He's got the hair perfect.
Well, you know the thing is, I was a goalie, so that's why I still have my teeth. But
that makes sense.
actually, I didn't grow out the hair until really this project because I didn't have time to get a haircut, and I was like, kind of like it longer.
You got the hockey look going, even with a mustache.
Wait till you get it, buddy, because that gray will start coming in. I don't know why it came in for me so early, but
when did you have kids?
it didn't start. It came in before kids.
Really?
Yeah, it's genetics. I'll have full white by the time I'm 40.
You gotta. Honestly, once you go pure white in the head, you gotta dye the beard. It's got to be all white.
Oh, it's got to be all white. I don't know. I kind of dig that white and kind of reddish hue.
Yeah, so I grew up with my whole beard was red, and then it was kind of like darkish, a little bit of red, and I guess a little bit of maybe
So
some black even.
So you've got I forget what the gene is called, but basically it's like, so redheads, so gingers have the full of this one gene, and then people who have red in their beard have half of it. And so you're half ginger.
I didn't know. I always wondered what it was like. Yeah, and I noticed a lot of hockey players. So I grew up thinking like, is it something to do with the ice?
No,
like, because when
you're half soulless.
Started playing hockey when I was that's actually pretty accurate. I'm a really nice, compassionate guy, but there's times where like, well,
Get the fuck out of my way.
when it's my family or business, it's black and white.
Yeah,
Yep.
So we had our weeded, and that one's the 51% sweet corn from the none other than Demetrius Kane.
Yep.
Genius. I mean, like in this industry, there's two people that I think are the most intelligent and passionate and hardest working. That's Tony Saputo, who I mentioned, and Demetrius Kane.
And Tony is who now?
Tony owns Platypus. He was the beverage director at Midwestern with us, and opened up Platypus in the Grove.
Oh, okay.
Great guy. Knows more than anybody I've ever met. I mean, and he's got a palate like, I mean, you guys want to do a taste test of something and you want to know exactly what that bourbon or whiskey tastes like, have Tony do it.
Dude,
I mean, it is wild.
That would be awesome.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. To a T, he will tell you what it tastes like. And I mean, like, I'm decent at it.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, I'm very.
I'm not even a novice. I'm just. I'm a guy who likes to drink.
I'm not an artistic guy. Plain and simple. Like these paint colors, I did not pick. If I picked them, it'd be gray, black, or brown, or white.
Hey, it matches wood. What are we talking about?
Yeah,
White with fluorescent lights.
I'm not artistic whatsoever, and you have to have an artistic mindset to be able to pull out some of the flavors and to create some of the cocktails they do. Because like I said, my cocktails in Manhattan, I'll probably never be able to create anything other than Manhattan.
Hey, but the one we had the other night was fantastic.
I'm not artistic.
Yeah, the one you told us to get, because you were like, go in there, get some Manhattans. So we got 2 Manhattans, and
they were stellar.
I'll tell you guys about this story about how I met Demetrius here in a second. And let me tell you about
this is your flagship.
This is Demetrius, my flagship. And it's kind of like we had this burger down in the Midwestern. And I'd be like, look, I'm not being biased, but it's the best cheeseburger around. And I still think it is. I think this is one of the best bourbons and mash bills I've ever tried.
We don't disagree.
Demetrius and I went through we met each other about 3 years ago in a 2-year journey of just constantly tasting barrels. And you guys know him. He's got a lot of them. And
Him? No.
we would just try random things and talk about just bourbon and whiskey in general. And then as we started working on this concept, and when we knew it was this property, and we started to really talk about what it's about, and at the end of the day, it's about that campfire mentality. You're with friends and family, or you're not. You're by yourself. And you taste this, and you go to that campfire mentality of you're disconnected, you're just enjoying life, you're peaceful, it's serenity, serene. And this to us just really embodies that. And we finally started to narrow it down. And when I say we finally started to narrow it down, Demetrius did. And we tried 3 barrels, didn't know the mash bill age, anything like that. And he goes, I know what you're going to want, I think. And these are the 3. And there was a caveat. It was a mash bill that he never released before for this one, for our flagship. And so we try all 3, and I go, it's this one. And he goes, all right, I'm going to mix them up, and I'm going to give you the mash bills. And I see the mash bill, and I go, I'm going to like this one without tasting it. And I try and go, that's the one. And this mash bill is 51% sweet corn and then equal parts wheat and rye. 24.5% wheat, 24.5% rye.
Whoa.
Which, when I saw that, I'm like, I love wheats, but I love ryes, and I fucking love Manhattans.
Yep.
And this is the perfect Manhattan bourbon. You know, and I'm a big rye for Manhattans. I don't think I ever order Manhattan out without saying I want it with rye whiskey. Yeah. And this is the only bourbon that I like a Manhattan with. And that wheat just gives it that sweetness, but then the rye in here follows it up with that herbal spice. And then you get, because of Demetrius and what he does, that oaky, smoky campfire taste to it. So it just hit every mark. Oh, and then I selfishly made it 110 proof because I like higher proofs.
Yes.
Because you don't live unless it's 100 or above.
Well, when you're mixing it too, I mean, the lower proofs kind of get drowned out by all the sweetness you're adding to it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just literally like sugar you're drinking at the lower proofs, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
That's why we did the wheat at 100 proof, is because we noticed that the people that were ordering them it's just more of your mainstream drinker.
Right.
And it's phenomenal, but it's designed for the mainstreams, where this is designed for the bourbon lover and whiskey lover. This is designed for the people that actually can appreciate the complex and the higher proof and that rye. Because most mainstream whiskey bourbon drinkers, they're not looking for the rye. Every time, like, no, I don't want rye. I don't like rye.
Right. They're looking for that caramel, the typical bourbon flavor tasting notes that you get.
I tell you what, dude. Like, so shout out Tasha. She's been the 2 times we've been here. She's been our waitress.
Yeah.
Over here at the distillery.
We've only been open 3 nights.
All right. Well,
I'm just kidding.
all right. The 2 nights that we showed up.
All right, fine. So I have a problem. There, I admit it.
But she was like, we got a new one. And we were like, hold on. What? And she goes, we got it. It came out today. Like, do you want it? And we're like, if we say no, shoot us. Like, that's a rhetorical question. And she's like, okay, I'll bring you some over. And we both tried it. And being in this industry, and I say in this industry, like, I like to tell people that I smoke cigars and drink whiskey for a living. Because that's eventually what I want to do is this podcast and then some other projects that we're working on. But what I want to do, honestly, man, is like sit around the table for a living. Like, that's what we do. We sit around the table and we talk, right?
We got a customer walking up or doesn't realize we're not open. Commercial break. Not right now. We're shooting a podcast.
Oh, you probably don't want me in.
It's okay. Thursday through Sunday we are.
Thursday through Sunday.
Yep.
Okay, well, we can't wait to hang out.
CottleVillage.com. It shows all the hours.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got to get a gate on the front.
Just a
That's for you guys at
6
home
foot
too.
privacy fence.
CottleVillage.com.
CottleVillage.com, Thursday through Sunday, 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. Not every day.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Midnight.
Something like that.
That's the beauty of being a small business owner. Is you can kind of get to decide when you're going to close or.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, it's always business decline. You know, like our goal is to be open as late as possible, but if the staff's not making any money, you know, people got to understand like they want to go home.
Yeah, we're going to get out of
know.
here, yeah.
So I mean, we generally say midnight. You know, sometimes if there's nobody in here at 11 on a Saturday, which I hope is never the case, but we're gonna get the staff out of here. You know, that's an important thing in this industry. But back to the
Yeah, but basically, like, it's very rare that we are blown away by anything anymore. So, like, the higher end stuff, like
When it comes to whiskey,
when it
and
comes to
cigars.
whiskey and cigars, we're not really impressed by things anymore. It's just, it's good,
Yeah.
right? And something that blows both of our minds, still to this day, is the E.H. Taylor Uncut Unfiltered. That's just unbelievable.
I haven't tried it yet.
It's
The barrel proof?
unbelievable. It's
Yes.
yeah, it's a barrel proof,
I haven't
uncut,
tried it yet.
unfiltered. It's one of the hardest bottles to come by. We had a friend who shared it with us way back when, and it's just unbelievable.
I've got one, but I haven't opened it yet.
It's blow your friggin' mind. However, again, you know, I've tasted probably 1,000 different whiskeys in my time, and we looked at each other after we both took a sip of the weeded, and we were like, "What the fuck?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that's-
what is happening?"
I literally had that one sip that day, and I go, "Yep, I'm getting a bottle."
Yep. Tasha walked away, and he goes, "Wait, come back. I want a bottle."
That's a great segue into me meeting Demetrius Kane. So, doing barrel picks, my wife eventually was like, "Hey, this isn't really work. You're going out having a good time, and you can't be
You can't have fun while you're working.
you can't be doing this all the time." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna figure it out." So I came up with a system where we'd leave St. Louis at 8 a.m., get to Kentucky, and we'd either go straight to the distillery, do the barrel pick, and then go to dinner, and then call it a night, and go home the next morning, leave at 8 a.m., and then there's an hour, we gain an hour, so get in at 11.
Right.
And so she was okay with that. It's one night, you know, and I was okay with it too, because then you're not like dead the next 3 days hungover
Right,
from going out
100%.
in Kentucky or Louisville. But so I pull into Midwestern and unload the team and go inside, and Zach Conley with Univita is there with Demetrius. And I'll tell you right now, when just pull Zach out of the equation. You know, anybody comes in unannounced to sell a product, especially if it's whiskey or bourbon, it's never good, ever. 99.9% of the time, I know that it's going to be young and, you know, rushed, and they don't really care about that
The product.
product. They care about the money and the revenue.
Let's get it out there. Yep.
And so, you know, Zach gives me an intro, say, "Hey, this is my buddy Demetrius, blah, blah, blah." And, you know, I say, "Hey, look, I just got back from doing a barrel pick. I'm tired, you know, maybe a little hungover. I mean, still, you wake up the next morning after doing a barrel pick, you're going to feel it.
Yes.
And I'm not drinking, but tell me your story. Tell me about your product." And he tells me it, and I'm just like, "What?"
I'm drinking.
Like, yeah, I was like, all right, let me try it. And
Okay.
and
I'll be
I-
having some.
and so at this time, I already had this concept in my mind, and so I try it, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna use my poker face now, and it's all right. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, and I said, probably like, this is good. I was like, I wasn't expecting this to be good, and it's good. And that was his Planters 100, and he invites me to his previous location of his distillery in Union, the one that was behind Happy Apples. Did you guys ever go there?
We never got to know.
That's a good thing. And he will tell you this exact same thing as he said it the other day. It was a shithole. And so I take him up on the offer and go for the tour and tasting. And again, we probably sampled 10 to 15 barrels, tried some really cool stuff. And, obviously I'm feeling pretty good. So I pitch him this concept and say, hey, look, I've been working on this concept and just throwing it out there and telling you about it. Let's talk in a few days after you take this in. And so I call him a few days later and I say, hey, what do you think about sourcing to me? Because at the time, the concept was I would just source. Again, going back to those guys that would come in or girls that would come in and try to sell me their product, they were sourcing from somebody else, didn't care what it tastes like or the age. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Screw it. Because the whole idea was just to have the product to attract people to the restaurant, live outdoor music venue. And Demetrius goes, how about we do something better? Let's go in a partnership together and get a distilling license. And I'm just like, really? Like, holy shit. Like, just unbelievable. And again, it's just a lot of the things I've done in my career is just, you just take your shot. I didn't think there was any way that Demetrius would say, yeah, let's go into partnership and open a distillery together. But I took the shot and it, I guess you could say I made it. And, but I think what happened after that was even more special, just learning from him, hanging out with him, going to the distillery. And I told him, like, look, this is like, a lot of the pitch I made to him was like, hey, you're very talented. You're incredible at distilling. He's a great guy to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah. But the venue side, the operation side, the marketing, the getting in front of hundreds and thousands of people, like, let's partner up so we can do that. And you can do that. And in that time, his brand definitely started to blow up more and more. And, but, fortunately, him and I started working together. I helped him out a little bit. When I say a little, just gave him a little advice here and there on his current location, which you guys have been to. And, I helped him with the bar design and layout and everything. And, he's a very creative person and a even harder worker. And, we'd come up with something and I'd come back the next week and it was already done. Or he'd say, we're going to do this, this, or this. What do you think about this? And we'd kind of tweak it and play with it and come up with something. And again, the next week it was done. Like, and I'm not saying like he's going to paint one wall. He's going to put up plywood and trim it around the entire tasting room. And he does it. Incredible man, incredible worker, incredible just family man. He's always there with his family. And, that's a big thing I always look for is like, do they have a family? Do they want to start a family? One of the two. And he's got 5 kids. So he's you do too?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
What ages?
I have twins will be 10, dude. 10 next week. And then 3, 2, and 1.
3, 2, 1.
Bing, bang, boom.
Bing. That's the good old bing, bang, boom. So Floyd Mayweather, just that bing, boom, pop. But yeah,
No, that's the Anchorman too.
That was the bing, bang, boom.
So you gonna keep going after that, or?
Fuck no.
I keep saying yes. So every time, because he's vehemently been like, listen, I'm done with kids for at least the foreseeable future.
For the foreseeable future, I am totally and
Well, if you went from 10 to 3, 2, 1, I mean that's a great age gap because the 10-year-olds are helping out.
oh yeah, they're helping out now, and that's great. I I've talked to my wife about it, and like, so we're gonna. I don't want to get too personal, but like, probably think about it when we move, because we need a bigger house.
I'd imagine.
But 5 children are expensive, so that bigger house is.
Well, you're in a what? 1,000 square foot house?
1,100 square foot house, yeah.
Okay.
Which Demetrius is as well.
Split
And
level.
so I'm like, if he moves, then I have to move. If he deems it necessary, but they love it. And his wife and my wife are really good buddies. And I don't know if women are buddies, but whatever. They're
Friends.
really good friends. And that was actually that's a really funny story. So they met at Demetrius at the tasting room's like 1 year anniversary and the distillery's 10-year anniversary, the big anniversary party. Yeah. And I had this feeling, I was like, you're gonna get along. And it's what's gonna happen. My wife was like, stop it. I was like, you're essentially the same person. Like, I've met you both. Demetrius has talked about her forever. Every time he talks about his wife, I hear, oh, that's Caitlin, like my wife in my mind, you know. And sure enough, they hit it off. And after, like, they talked for like an hour, and they'd already set up play dates, and they'd already set up like dates to go to the gym together, like all these things. And I walked up to Demetrius and I was like, hey, just letting you know, because he's a very private guy, very private about his personal life. And I go, hey, we're going to be having like a play date with our kids soon. And without skipping a beat, he looks me dead in the eye with like just the dead face. And he goes, I get to decide that. I was like, oh, okay.
He's going to interview all your kids.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Background check.
But what was really funny
He
is
does have good values that
He does.
I really wish I had the strength to instill, like the no internet, no.
he has nothing, no technology in his
Yeah.
house.
Well, and I think that helped because, he didn't.
He didn't until college. He didn't have internet until college. He didn't own a TV until college. And so, because he grew up on a huge logging farm in Oregon or what. But I was going to say, like, that speaks volumes to who you are, because that's a very similar situation to what we did. Is we met him, we pitched him the podcast and told him everything we were doing. And he was like, I'm on board, whatever you need. Yeah. And so that like warms my heart, because I was like, okay, clearly because I feel that Demetrius has what I call the spirit of discernment. Like, he can just read you.
Yeah.
And he just knows you immediately. And so it speaks volumes to you that all you had to do was hang out with him for an afternoon. And then you're like, hey, here's this idea. And he goes, business partner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, the business partners are hard. It's just like being married, you know. And I was fortunate with
I don't know anything about that.
With Wheelhouse
You love
and Star Bar Midwestern. I had two great business partners, and they really were and are. And I was very fortunate in that. And this project my wife and I did on our own, and she's a great partner. But sometimes you see in a lot of business fails, they just like meet a guy on a whim or a girl, or whatever, and go into business together. And I think, fortunately, I think that screen turned out. Is that all right?
It's just the screen.
Okay, just making sure. Like I said,
Hold on. Keep going.
we're gonna have some outtakes.
Yeah.
I think fortunately for, keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Are we recording?
The mics are getting it, yes.
Okay.
The camera, they'll just be like a small little.
See, I told you guys I never did a podcast before. It's all new to me. But I think even with Demetrius and I, and we're both handshake guys. I'm a big handshake when it comes to business and man of my word. And, we both said, we're going to do this. But then we had the next 3 years to really make sure that we worked well together. And we do. I mean, he's phenomenal. I'd hope he says the same thing about me. Well, you're going to have to do another podcast to get it out of him. But no,
Well,
I think
I bet you he will.
we work very well
About
together.
100% sure he will.
And I think a lot of it comes down to you both work hard. You both have good values. And, we knew that going into the partnership. And, I couldn't be more thankful than, Zach for bringing him in to meet me and, him coming in that day. And, I'm a big believer of, destiny and what's meant to be is meant to be. And I actually tried to put this concept where Frankie Martin's is down the road, and that didn't work out. I was definitely pretty depressed, upset about it, and like, man, this was like the perfect property for this concept. And as it turns out, this was actually the perfect property for the concept because it was the nursery and it's got all these beautiful trees, and then we got to bring it back to a nursery that hundreds, thousands of people can enjoy and plant. We planted over 100 trees, shrubs, did 2 acres of sod, brought it back to that nursery-esque of what I'm sure it looked like when Richard and Sydney Kurtz were actually maintaining the property. And, I know, Demetrius and I have a lot of the same, beliefs when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's funny that you say that, because
we've got like 10 minutes, but that's go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, after Adam left a couple nights ago, I was sitting out here just talking to the people around, and that was actually one of the biggest things that everyone said that differentiated your place here, Cottle Village, compared to every other kind of more outdoorish venue, was that you have all these trees providing natural shade, towards everywhere else you bake, because they get rid of all the trees, they get rid of all the shade, except maybe they'll put up a pavilion or a couple pavilions, and that's it. Towards you have not only the picnic tables with the umbrellas, you've got this, which is indoor/outdoor, but this patio is covered by natural shade.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not to throw shade at Frankie Martin's garden, pun intended, but like I think that's what is. It adds so much depth and beauty to your land and what you have going on here.
Yeah,
compared to
we love Frankie's. I mean, we go there all the time. My kids love it. It's now that this is open, I mean, this is obviously our go-to, but we'll definitely be going there and still do. They're great people, great owners, and it's a great property with historic background to it. And but this was being able to preserve the trees, and I designed the building around these 4 pin oaks. That there's 3 behind us, and then 1 on the north side of the tavern. I designed the building to go around them instead of tearing them down and expanding the way that the building probably should have gone. We only had to take down 4 trees. 3 were dead or dying, and 1 was a good one. But like I said, we planted 100 other ones. But it was last weekend, and the weekend before Richard Kurtz's family came out, and then this last weekend, Sydney Kurtz's family came out, and his son Matthew and his wife, and both families they were in tears, seeing this place. And Matthew's wife said to me in tears, this is really what Richard would have wanted. Like, she's like, I truly believe like in divine invention, destiny, what's meant to be, which is a lot of things I believe in. I do believe in a higher being, and I'm somewhat religious, but it's more that I do think things just align for a certain reason. I met Demetrius for a certain reason. I didn't, it didn't work out with Frankie Martin's for a certain reason. To go forward with this property, and then to learn the history of it, and then to be able to preserve and enhance it and bring it back to that nursery feel. And I do apologize if I yell at your kids for going over the landscaping at them, but it's for a reason. It's just like, it is a special property, and I think there's a lot of history behind it that somehow now my wife and I and Demetrius own this, and it's a beautiful project and beautiful concept, and I'm really excited about people enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, and you can yell at my kids. That's fine. Well, we could talk forever, and I think we should do it again.
Absolutely.
But
how long was that?
That's an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, it didn't feel like that long.
Good. That's our goal.
That's so. I'll tell you after.
Thanks for joining us at the table. We have
Dan,
Steve Savage,
Adam. We'll see you next time.
sucker.